Happy Tuesday. It is World Diabetes Day today. I hope to share a little bit of awareness today, a little bit of information as I always do. And a lot of times, you guys have the tools you need to, whether it's managing symptoms or you're looking at improving your physical health and getting more active. But sometimes these sessions are great to do just as a reminder. I forgot it did this, and I didn't realize I don't have to do that. And sometimes, the road to dealing and managing with some of these symptoms isn't as complicated as we make it out to be in our own minds sometimes. So today I want us to focus, as always, on simplicity. There's a number of reasons that you should look at improving your lifestyle and activity choices if you are dealing with diabetes. As I said, November 14th is Diabetes Day worldwide. So there's all kinds of celebrations and initiatives going on. Early diagnosis is always, of course, the best step as far as, just identifying what your body may be telling you. And I wanted to focus a little bit to start on some stats and just some signs that you should probably be paying attention to. Sometimes our body, as I said, is trying to tell us things. We just need to listen to it. So diabetes is a big one. There are estimated 38.4 million people that have diabetes in the US, 11.6% of the population. And I'm going to break that down into, as always, diagnosed and undiagnosed. Many of us may be dealing with a condition, but may not have a formal diagnosis or may have a misdiagnosis. So you never know. Diagnosed, this is all according to the CDC, is just under 30 at 29.7 million, including 29.4 million adults. And it's obviously more likely to seek that diagnosis and look at things when we are not a child. Undiagnosed, there's approximately 8.7 million, or 22% of adults out there that are undiagnosed. Pre-diabetes, all those signs we should be paying attention to, perhaps some genetics, some history in the family. 97.6 million people are estimated above the age of 18 are pre-diabetic, which is 38% of all adults in the US. 65 years or older, estimates are 27.2 million people, and that's 48.8% in that age group. So half of our folks above 65 are walking around pre-diabetic and don't even know about it. So what can you do? You can pay attention to the signs that your body might be telling you. According to the CDC, and I've simply listed these if you'd like to look into these further on your own. Going to the bathroom, urinating often, a lot, often at night. So if you're getting up to pee lots, sometimes we just dismiss these things. Oh, I had too much coffee, or oh, I did this, or I didn't do that. You're very thirsty all the time. You're losing weight without trying, without any putting effort forward. Are you hungry? Has the vision gotten a little blurry or foggy at all? Do you have numb or tingling hands and feet? That's a very common one that we sometimes dismiss. There's other things in our environment that sometimes symptoms are not always specific to one condition, but that numbness, tingling, lack of sensation or increased sensitivity, especially in the outer extremities, very, very, very common in the feet and the hands with diabetes. Do you have fatigue? Do you feel tired all the time? Do you have very dry skin? Do you have sores that heal slowly or take longer than they should to heal? And do you have more infections than usual? Sometimes that little sore just won't heal, and it's getting infected, and it's going beyond what it normally should. Your body is struggling, and these are all signs that you may be pre-diabetic, or you at least need to go get your blood sugar levels looked at. If severe and left unmanaged, the health complications that can stem from unmanaging or just ignoring this condition long term, the big ones include heart disease, chronic kidney disease, nerve damage. That's where that nerves and the numbness, the tingling we talked about, and other problems related to the feet, oral health, your vision, hearing, or mental health. You may notice declines out of the ordinary. So these are all, long term. The toll that these things can take on your body can have greater effects. So, of course, today we're going to be talking about some ways that you can manage symptoms. I talked about doing a short routine on a vibration plate, which is always my fave. But overall lifestyle choices in combination with activity. Getting active is not going to completely change your situation. Food is a very big driving factor here. What you eat is a given and can have a huge overall impact on how you manage diabetes long term in combination with other lifestyle choices, proper rest, recovery, those types of things. Today we're going to talk about the being active portion. Being active makes your body more sensitive to insulin and more effective in utilizing it. So insulin is that hormone that allows cells in your body to use blood sugar for energy and converts them, which helps, of course, you manage your diabetes. Physical activity helps control blood sugar levels and lowers the risks of heart disease, nerve damage, some of those other longer term severe factors that you could lead to. I did a little more digging. Some of this is commonly known. Some of this is not commonly known. If you do have diabetes and you haven't had a good conversation with your doctor or therapist, care provider, what type of activities should you be doing? And generally speaking, we do want to say, yes, you need to get active. There's a million reasons that exercise benefits your body. But some workouts like heavy, strenuous lifting, sprints, super competitive sports, they actually cause you to increase your stress hormone production, things like adrenaline. And adrenaline raises blood glucose levels by stimulating your liver to release glucose. So, getting active is one thing, but, don't go run a marathon right off the bat. If you are severe in your symptoms and very declined in your health, you should have a discussion with your doctor before starting any activity, just to see what levels of activity and what types might be appropriate to you, and if there's anything that you should be avoiding for your personal situation. Generally speaking, avoid high impact, very strenuous, prolonged weight-bearing type of activities, and opt for gentler, more kind, low-impact exercises. Hint, hint, like a vibration plate. Again, a vibration plate, if you've watched any of my sessions in the past, is nothing more than an environment that makes the things we're supposed to be doing easier and more effective in less time. It's easier on the body. So if you are in a place of declining health, you've been inactive for long periods of time and are in this situation, much because of that this isn't a death sentence. Type 2 diabetes, type 1 diabetes, there's different types out there. Any of the literature out there will tell you that type 1 is something that is incurable. I've seen clients move on from it. Type 2, I've certainly seen many of my clients have good success with managing it. But you're going to be the one doing the work. I can give you all the ideas here, but it's the consistent, regular implementation of these lifestyle choices, the activity that's going to get you over the finish line in the long run. So let's start with a vibration plate. It can be, again, used to manage symptoms that you may be dealing with, but it can also be the activity best suited for your needs. And if you are dealing with symptoms that have progressed, you are, suffering fatigue, aches and pains. Usually if you're dealing with diabetes and you've got some severe symptoms, like any condition out there, you're usually not dealing with just one thing. So this is very much an individual path forward as far as what physical exercises, how long, what settings. But in general, what I would recommend, especially if you're dealing with the onset of things like neuropathy, numbness, fatigue, poor sleep, if you have a vibration machine and it's collecting more dust than it should be, just get familiar with it again. I'm starting seated, as I always do. I want to give you guys that are dealing with poor mobility and fatigue ways to benefit from the machine until you're ready to do more weight-bearing activities. More weight-bearing activities are going to help the bone strength. They're going to help the muscle They're going to help with stability, balance, mobility, all those things that may have declined. But if you have digressed and balance is poor, mobility is not great, and fatigue is present, I would prefer you start seated, get a feel for this, or maybe do a combination of standing and bearing your weight and seated. So to start, one of the big long-term issues with diabetes we talked about is heart conditions, heart disease, and when you spend a lot of time sitting, if you're inactive or it's the nature of your job, all that blood and lymphatic needs to return. And unfortunately, the lower part of our legs, the calf muscles, are smaller than the larger portion, the thighs. So they've done a lot of work to return that lymph and that blood volume. And instead of just sitting here and enjoying the movement of the plate, as far as positioning, I always recommend your feet hip width apart or closer. The distance between your feet controls the intensity. So if you are sensitive, dealing with pain or numbness, I want you to be conservative in starting. So no more than hip width apart. And I would like you working on a mid-speed range in oscillating. Start manually. Learn how your device works before you get into all the programs. Any of the moves I show you guys in these sessions are universal regardless of movement style. I prefer to coach all my sessions in oscillating because that is a movement style that all of Life Pro's plates offer, but it's also more functional. And today with talking about diabetes, knowing that mobility, poor balance, and stamina, some of those things are ever present, oscillating more mimics the natural motion of walking. It's going to give you more benefits, in my experience, short term, especially on the balance and the stability piece. And if I can get you stable and feeling comfortable in standing on this plate, we can progress into more functional exercises sooner. If you're not feeling stable, the confidence isn't there, and you're scared to death of this thing, you're not going to progress to standing as quickly as I would like you to. So the first thing we're going to do is start working those legs, helping them return the blood and the lymphatic while increasing some strength, is we're going to do some seated calf raises. So all you're going to do is we're going to come up. This also helps with range of motion and flexibility in your ankles. A good squat isn't always about how fit you are or how flexible it is. It also has a lot to do with the range of motion in the ankles. So if you don't do exercises like this regularly, it's a good habit to get into, whether you're doing them on your vibration plate, whether you're doing them just seated in your chair. Engaging these muscle groups and working the range of motion in these ankles is a great way to just improve everything else that you're doing. Your feet are the foundation of your most basic movement and function, which is walking. So we want to make sure if there are sensitivities, if you're not feeling stable, that we give them some attention before you even attempt standing. So this is a great warm-up, if you will, just sitting here for perhaps a minute or two, getting some movement going. Maybe you want to do some little circles with those toes, things like that. One of the sort of side symptoms that I see with a lot of my diabetics, a lot of my clients that lack mobility in general, is sciatic issues. If any of you are dealing with this, since I'm kind of in the starting position, I wanted to reshare this one. Sciatic is one of those symptoms that's very common through lots of different diagnoses. What we're going to do here is it almost looks like a bit of a calf stretch. So depending on your range of motion, we're going to take one leg at a time. We're going to try straightening the leg. You may not be able to lift as high as me or pull your toe as close, but the goal is to feel a nice stretch on the backside of that calf, and you'll feel it also into the top of the thigh. While we're doing this, we want to have a nice straight core, nice straight spine. We're looking straight forward, and while we lift, I want you with your head to look straight up or as close to straight up as you can, and hold for 2 to 3 seconds and relax. If you Google this one, it's called the nerve floss by a few folks, but it's going to open up all the channels in your leg in a seated position. I'd love to see you touching your toes or sitting on the ground and reaching for your toes. But when you're dealing with poor mobility and poor range of motion, that's not always an option. So this is a great way. Of course, do both legs, whether the symptoms are presenting there or not. You could do about 3 to 5 reps of this. And this is one of those ones I like to take a side step, and just this individual exercise on its own can be done really anytime you need it. A spot treatment and using your machine for a minute or two to deal with something is completely different than doing a whole workout. Just because you walk to the refrigerator and back 4 times today, does that mean you're not allowed to go for a walk around the block later on? Absolutely not. So if you find that you've overstretched, or this one sort of feels good once you get into it, you may want to do just a couple more calf raises after you're done. The goal I want you to strive for here is to experiment. What feels good to me and what I think feels best when I'm seated may be different for you. I just want to give you guys some variations. Again, for those that are unable to stand for long periods, I want to give you one more little upper body add-on that you can do here. While you're seated, if you are dealing with fatigue, you're dealing with stiffness, pain of any kind, and you want to get a little bit more of a total body effect, take your arms, lock them, place the heel of your hands on your knees, and depending on how close or how wide, if you need to modify, it completely depends on how it feels to you. But again, we're at a mid-speed range. Our feet are about hip width apart, and you can feel ever so slightly a little bit of movement in the arms. This is going to start with some very basic lymphatic movement. It's going to increase circulation, which is going to oxygenate the blood, give you energy. If this is feeling okay, but you think you could tolerate a little bit more action and are able to, please lean forward and take your elbows this time and rest them on the knees. Your shoulders will be just past your elbows or past your knees. So you're going to feel very little, if any at all, vibration in the head. Primarily where you will feel it is in the shoulders and the neck, which is an area that everyone is dealing with lots of tension between bra straps and purses and picking up your kids and typing on your computer. We all accumulate a little bit of stress in these areas, and it's also a good way if you're concerned with lymphatic, neuropathy, anything in the upper body. This is a very mild way for you to get started and just get used to the stimulation of the plate, how it feels, what speed levels feel good to you. All things I want you guys to experiment with. It's very much an individual experience. Again, any of these exercises you could do for a minute or two. You could do them as a warm-up. You could do them as a spot treatment. You could do it to break up the sitting if you work at home. A minute or two here and there as needed to manage symptoms as they present is absolutely fine. We're going to progress here now. So I just want to make sure I've covered everything. I covered this actually in the last few sessions, but it keeps coming up as probably one of the most functional exercises, the squat. The squat, we're going to stand up at this point. If you do not feel stable standing on the plate, please give yourself something to hang on to. I use ladders. I have safety rails on walls. Put your machine slightly, in front of the sofa, beside your kitchen island. Let's pretend this is attached to the wall. If you are dealing with poor mobility or afraid in any way, I want you to have something to hang on to. When you're first standing on the plate, bring your feet closer to the center. Again, I cannot stress enough that reduces the intensity of any speed that you're using in oscillating movement. You are always in control. So if at any time you're feeling it's just too much action, it's not about slowing it down. I want you guys to get used to using the mid and higher speeds. They are more comfortable. You're getting more done in less time. But if you combine them with a really wide foot placement, it's just too much action for most people. And I don't want you, A, overdoing it, or B, being turned off of something that's probably a very viable solution to not only help you with your activity and increasing it, but to manage those symptoms throughout the day. So another one that is a big deal for a lot of my diabetics is hip and lower back issue. If you're not as active or you're compensating in your activities, sometimes just the body and how it compensates for deficiencies can cause issues. And a big one is the lower back. And I want to show you guys how to target that. you're going to just, if you're comfortable and balance is okay, you're going to lean over just slightly. The knees are still undone. The legs aren't locked. They're just taller. And what you'll notice going from here, where you're feeling it primarily in the legs, the hips, and the belly, if you lean over, just by changing your angles and the position and how you're standing on the machine, you're going to feel it now moving that low back and the hips. And many of you are dealing with low back issues and spinal issues on top of all the diabetes stuff. So please, if you're targeting your back and doing this type of an exercise for the first time, bring your feet closer to the center. Once you're there, you can decide, and your back can have some input. You know, depending on your day, if it's a bad day, you may not want a lot of intensity. If it's a good day and you want a little bit more action, slightly widen the feet up, maybe an inch or a half an inch at a time, and you'll notice the intensity change quite dramatically. So work with what's comfortable. From here, one of my most favorite exercises, I do not need this for balance, while I'm here is kind of like a pelvic tilt. So tilt that bum forward, clenching those bum cheeks. Now we're going to arch it backwards, like you're trying to touch the back of your head to your tailbone. And it's kind of like you're doing what's called a standing cat-cow. And as you wiggle your body around, you can do side to side, maybe do some little circles. The goal, as I have described in many past sessions, is I just want to get you loose and limber and this is really going to contribute to that overall range of motion and mobility that many of you are lacking, is just getting some flexibility and a little bit of attention spent on the core, okay? That's another great one. Again, if you spend too much time sitting, the back's flaring up, you've been leaning over a computer too much, it's a great way to just loosen things up, boost the energy. But the purpose for symptom management is going to be short and purposeful. If you're looking at this as an activity and you're starting from ground zero, you know, a couple 3 minutes may be enough. I can't stress another point enough. Just because your machine may be pre-programmed for 10 or 15 minutes, there's no expectation that you do that. Now, when you're using a machine for the first time, sometimes it feels pretty good. And 10 to 15 minutes may not seem like a lot. But what I would really like to caution, especially with my diabetic crowd, I have seen customers form blisters on the bottoms of their feet because they don't feel the fatigue in their feet. Or, you know, you think you want to lose weight, so you push your feet really, really wide and you fight and you resist the machine for 10 to 15 minutes because that's what you see everybody doing on the internet. You are not everybody else on the internet, and I would rather you start out with shorter, more frequent sessions and build up from there versus just diving in with both feet and overdoing it and paying the price the next day. For those of you that are more conditioned, if you are doing this in supplement to other activities, or it's something that you're trying as a new activity and you're doing squats and you're doing push-ups and you're familiar with these types of exercises, all that the vibration plate's going to do is make that exercise more effective, and it's got the potential to fatigue you faster. If you are an active person and you're doing these types of exercises now, or you're beginning to do things like squats versus just standing on the machine, try static movements. Or if you are moving, very slow, very purposeful. Again, we don't want high intensity. We don't want to get a whole bunch of adrenaline rushing and spike those blood sugar levels. So I want you, before you push yourself into a program and start pushing yourself physically, I want you to be comfortable with the positions themselves. The more you focus on good technique and mastering a couple of simple exercises and doing them regularly, you're going to have just as much benefit as doing a big old elaborate workout once, twice a week. A lot of times, if you're not an active person in your lifestyle now, you're not going to become one just because you got a vibration plate, okay? The biggest thing that most people struggle with, whether you're diabetic, whether you're dealing with whatever the health condition is, if you're not an active person now, the disconnect when you start using a vibration plate is what the heck do I do on it? All it is an environment that makes those exercises that you would do on the floor at the gym or in your living room more effective. You can get them done quicker. So for the fatigue piece, if we can get those muscles to a level of fatigue in less time, you're going to reserve some of those energy levels for later. And as I said, as a spot treatment throughout the course of the day, if you are dealing with mild or even moderate to severe symptoms, you can use your machine for short 2 to 3 purposeful minutes to manage the symptom and learn how to use the machine to manage those symptoms before you progress into more elaborate exercise or fitness routines. I want to circle back to symptoms and give you guys some other ideas, and then I'm going to come back for some questions. No, a vibration plate isn't the only road to success in managing your symptoms. The reason it's such an ideal tool for the diabetic crowd that we're addressing today is it can be the symptom management tool, but it can also be the activity. And what a vibration plate brings to the equation over any other tool in the vibrational world, whether it's guns or belts, is you can perform weight-bearing exercises on it. So that's where the bones get strong. It's not a setting. It's not a program. It's bearing your weight. And in this environment of the plate where it presents less impact and other benefits while you're doing these exercises, it's kind of a no-brainer. You're getting more bang for your buck. And as I said, if you're not a big exercise guru, I find with many of my clients, I'm well into my second decade of being a coach with these plates. If you look at it as more of a lifestyle management tool and the symptoms tool, believe it or not, you'll find yourself using it more regularly regardless, because it makes the pain go away. It manages the swelling. It gives you energy. And what I've seen with some of my clients on the bone density piece, a lot of them aren't doing big elaborate exercises. They're just using the plate regularly. They're bearing their weight regularly in this environment that improves the benefits of standing on the floor. So there's lots of passive ways to get those fitness benefits, but it's a big bang for your buck on the symptom management. You are only limited by your imagination and your range of motion. So if you have a plate, experiment with it. Other symptoms I want to talk about and other potential treatments. LifePro also has a massive lineup, not just of vibration plates, but other tools, light therapies, compressions. And I always say, when you're looking at using to manage the symptoms that you may personally be dealing with, I want you to be realistic. Be realistic not only in what you're actually willing to commit to, what you're willing to do, but be realistic in what you're going to use. Just because you bought the biggest, fanciest massage gun, doesn't mean that you're actually using it regularly. So I wanted to give you some other ideas. If you're not the type of person that is going to progress to doing exercises and you just want to do symptom management, you just want to deal with the neuropathy in the feet, you're doing something else for fitness and you're just looking for something else to complement it, there are some great ways that you can incorporate other self-care tools. I keep looking back and forth because I'm trying to decide what my fave is. What my fave isn't always as important as what I see as my clients' faves. And I would say that probably the number one no-brainer that I started with when I started working with LifePro was the compression garments. So the booties in particular, even though they're not the biggest, the fanciest, LifePro has a really vast selection depending on your budget and what areas you're trying to treat. But if we're looking specifically at the feet, these are what I would call more of an area specific tool. So if you just want to target the feet, you want to use something regularly and you don't want to think about it, the compressions and the booty ones, I want to bring the box a little bit closer. I haven't taken them out. These are a lithium battery, and a lot of my clients that travel, that want to manage their symptoms on the go, that don't have the ability to carry their vibration plates with them. These are a great option because you can use them in the hotel, but with the lithium battery, you can always use them in the car. So if you're the passenger and that, and things are setting in and you've got an 8-9 hour car ride, this is a great way to manage while you travel or at the office. It feels great, but it's a perfect way to get that blood, that circulation, the lymph, all those things we talked about earlier, assist your body in just getting some fluids moving. If you are dealing with nerve damage and that's starting to progress, this is a really great tool to manage those sensation issues. I'm going to say it's a tie then. So besides compression, red light and infrared light. This is a new one I haven't played much with yet. This is the new Aleva Soul. If you've got a family member or you are personally dealing with way severe, you are bedridden, you're not in a position to walk, you've got ulcers all over your feet, there's still so much that you can do. This is what I would also call a more body-specific tool. It's hands-free. If you're very, very sensitive, sometimes the compression and the massaging action is too much for some of my clients to tolerate, especially when you're dealing with, you know, varying sensitivities and pain being a big one. Red light is a great tool to address things on the skin surface. I mentioned earlier, it's really common to have itchy skin, which may develop into psoriasis or other eczemas, things like that on the skin. So the red light's a really good tool to address the skin surface issues and slightly below into those lymphatic vessels. Infrared is going to go a little bit deeper. It's a great way to not only activate those nerves, but to help manage swelling, reduce pain, restore healing. You know, infrared and red light, I could do a whole separate session on the benefits of those just for neuropathy. But as I said earlier, be realistic. If you are treating yourself or you're treating others, there's so many choices out there in LifePro's lineup. It's important to make sure that you're going to pick a tool that you're going to use regularly. It's not about what I think you should use or how you should use it. I want you to look in the mirror and be completely honest with yourself. There's something that you can do about your situation, but be realistic about what you're actually going to do. Once you start moving and feeling better, you'll be surprised where other motivation comes from. So maybe this is where you start, but as things improve, maybe you do progress to a vibration plate. I've got a lot of clients that I don't recommend using a plate right now because they're just not physically in a position to progress in the way I'd like them to. And this is where a lot of my complementary treatments come. So if you know you want to work towards a vibration plate, but you're not quite there yet and it's still kind of scary and you've got that neuropathy in the feet, I wanted to talk about these types of plates. LifePro's come out with a number of these where it's got the therapeutic magnetic bumps. These are great if you're dealing with sensation issues, neuropathy. They're also an ideal tool if you plan to spend the majority of your time sitting on a chair and just exposing the feet. So this is a better symptom management style plate. If you're a big gym goer and you're looking at doing squats and adding 150 pounds to your frame while you're doing them on the plate, I recommend a plate without the therapeutic bumps. This would be a great second machine if you were looking for something a little bit more portable. LifePro's got a lot of options out there, but they're the therapeutic bumps, because I like to work out barefoot and I don't like to use a mat. For me, for things like my squats, I can only tolerate these for a short period of time, but they are awesome on a seated application, or for those of you that, you know, maybe you want a machine just beside the bed, or you want one for the office where you're just going to be using it under your desk. So again, I'm kind of backing myself into a corner here. There is no best vibration plate for diabetes. There's no best vibration plate for any condition out there. There's no best red light tool. There's no best massage gun. It really, again, depends. Look in the mirror. Be realistic in what you're going to be using it for. And if you are going to be honest and progress with something, if I did have to select one thing, it would be a vibration plate. If you're looking at complementing it with something, or you want something else to manage symptoms, there were some other ideas there I want you guys to consider. And if you're joining me from the VIP group, which I know many of you are, you have many of these tools already. Here's the butt kick to just get using them consistently and start managing some of those symptoms. I want to mention very quickly, just a reminder, if you didn't catch me in the contest, and if you've bought anything since the beginning of September, they had to put some parameters in place. If you've done a review of September, you will automatically be entered into to Life Pro's draw for prizes. There's 3 weeks of 2 winners. I'm not certain if it's this coming Friday or the following. But the review contest is very simple. I'm going to drop a link in here for you guys. If you have not registered yet, or you have not placed a review, I encourage you to do so. If you've got a product that you have had for some time and you just haven't gotten around to the review, there's absolutely no issue with entering that way either. If anyone does have questions, I'm going to get to that portion here. Facebook user, I see you guys had a lot. I did not see your comments here. I was away from the screen. Facebook user, I hope you've gotten back in since. I see that there are 3 of you here. I'm going to drop my link for the review contest here. Just go into this and you can register if you do want to be entered. And if you've got a review you'd like to do on one of Life Pro's products, here's your chance to do so. Today, as I said, and as I started with, it is World Diabetes Day today, November 14th. All kinds of things going around the globe. If you Google, you'll see all kinds of neat stuff going on. If you are dealing with diabetes, if you suspect you're dealing with diabetes, there are many, many ways that you can improve your situation. And it doesn't necessarily have to be, an hour commitment running to the gym back and forth daily. So look at the tools that you have. If you have some concerns, perhaps you've got some severe symptoms, or you have any questions about the products I've discussed today, please always feel free to ask me questions directly. Tag me at Debbie with a Y. Sometimes as this gets out on a recorded basis, the questions grow. And if you do not tag me, I don't always get a notification. I get a lot of volume of notifications on Facebook. So feel free to tag me if you have a question specifically, or just post a comment if it's something others can learn from. I appreciate you sharing. The point of today is it's diabetes awareness and symptoms to recognize, or maybe you recognize them on folks within your household. But there are many ways through changes in lifestyle and getting yourself a little bit active that can improve and obliviate this condition. It's not the end of the world, but it is a growing concern, certainly in North America and around the world. The numbers are climbing. So be mindful. I appreciate you joining me today. It's Tuesday. I look forward to seeing you at my regular day, which is Q&A Monday. I'll see you next week for another session at my regular time of 7 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. I look forward to seeing you guys next week. Don't work too hard, and I look forward to seeing you again very soon.